Caesar is the craziest defense agent we've ever seen, and today I'm sharing my first impressions on this new powerhouse. Her defensive assists, strong shield, and 1000 attack increase make her one of the best supports currently available, and she's also incredibly versatile, shining in both crit and anomaly based teams. Before I go any further, a few notes. This video is a first look at Caesar's kit featuring footage from the creator beta server, and I'll also be releasing a guide when her banner drops. But finally guys, if you're someone who wants a big mommy shielder who also buffs the heck out of your team, you're in luck. Caesar is here. Let's get into it. If you've recently pulled for Seth in ZenlessZoneZero, Caesar's gameplay will feel familiar. She primarily focuses on performing defensive assists, dash attacks, and using special attacks that can be activated after dodges or assists, and this is shockingly similar to how Seth plays. Both agents are fantastic even when not on field for too long, but there is one major difference between Seth and Caesar. Caesar provides a universal 1000 attack increase that is tied to an amazing barrier, and this is usable on almost anyone in any team composition. Additionally, the barrier also reduces interruptions and damage taken by an incredible amount, and to call it crazy is an understatement. But now let's talk about Caesar's passive and additional ability. Caesar doesn't actually have a unique resource bar in the same way that other characters do, but instead has a barrier with its own meter. This is her core passive. Her core passive, as I just mentioned, revolves around her barrier, which is applied after using an EX special, chain attack, or ultimate. This barrier can be transferred to another agent when she swaps, and its size and scaling depend on her impact. The attack buff that she also applies, by contrast, increases with her core skill level, and a key feature of this barrier is the fact that it can't be broken in one hit, even by fatal damage. If broken, however, the attack buff disappears after 5 seconds, but Caesar can transfer it to an ally before it fades. Fortunately, it's actually pretty easy to generate a new barrier, so this disappearing is actually not that big a deal. Caesar's additional ability strengthens her team utility by applying a debuff to all nearby enemies that increase the damage they take by 25% for 30 seconds. This debuff is almost always active and requires very little effort to maintain. However, it only works if you fulfill the additional ability requirement, which is having an ally who can perform a defensive assist or is from the same faction as her. Ranged characters like Zhu or Rina actually can't activate this ability by themselves, but fortunately some of their potential allies like Ellen for Rina or Nicole for Zhu meet the defensive assist requirement instead. Overall, it's a high value ability that works well in many team setups. And now let's take a look at all of her actual skills, starting with her basic attack. Caesar's 6-part attack combo looks cool, but mainly deals an okay amount of daze and minor damage. Her charged basic attack, however, is very important since it applies a damage increasing debuff to all enemies around her, assuming you activate Caesar's additional ability. The other value to this is the added invulnerability during the attack, but it costs an assist point to perform, leaving you with another resource to manage more carefully. Caesar's special attack is where things get kind of complicated. Performing her special attack without energy is not ideal, so therefore let's talk about her energy using special attack instead. To simplify, Caesar has 2 EX special attacks, each with unique animations, effects, and multipliers, but they do share some core features. Here's how they're similar. Both can block enemy attacks for a perfect block, and both generate a shield for Caesar the moment they are cast. Additionally, perfect blocks increase your impact by 15% for 3 seconds while also refunding the energy cost regardless of which EX special performed it. Here's how they differ. The first EX special is a forward strike that deals physical damage, while the second is a follow-up shield bash that deals more damage and daze. A perfect block with the first EX special does actually add an extra shield bash, and this is something that the second can't do. Caesar's assist and dodges are standard for melee characters, but as with all supportive / stun characters, they are used frequently to generate daze on the boss. For Caesar specifically, if she is paired with characters like Jane who want no other agents on field, assists are where most of her value will come from. If she is paired with characters who don't mind other agents being on field, like Zhu, she will definitely have moments to use her dash attack and dodges. However, she will ultimately just end up performing EX special attacks and leaving the field after the boss is stunned. Finally, we have Caesar's chain and ultimate. Caesar's chain is actually very fast and can synergize perfectly with Swing Jazz's 4-piece set effect, but we'll get to that later. Her chain attack otherwise is pretty standard, so let's talk about her ultimate. Her ultimate is a massive physical strike, but it also has the crazy potential to strip shields almost immediately if you hit a barrier on an enemy. There aren't that many enemies who have this condition currently though, but that doesn't mean ZenlessZoneZero won't introduce them in the future. Let's talk about her build, set, and W engine, as some builds in testing has already been completed. Here's what I found. First and foremost, the performance of her build, her W engine, her set, and her her overall value is somewhat skewed since, of course, quantifying team utility damage is way harder than just calculating how much damage she gains from a set. That being said, Caesar's signature W engine stands out as the best option because it's the first defense W engine with impact as its main stat paired with a useful passive. Since many defensive characters double as buffers and stunners, having impact is invaluable. Caesar's W engine alternatives fall short in comparison, however, with original Transmorpher being another option, but its HP boost offers very little team value. Another option is using a stunner/daze class W engine, but Caesar can't fully utilize its effect since she is a defensive agent. Overall, any three of these options will work fine, but ultimately her signature is what will perform the best. I personally would recommend using original Transmorpher if you have it available and leveled, but otherwise using a stunner's W engine if you have one of them leveled too is definitely your next best bet. I'll discuss my pulling thoughts and the value of the W engine later, but just know it definitely performs amazingly if you manage to pull it. For sets, Caesar has 3 main options for her 4-piece set that depends on the team that she is paired with. In general, the newest set, Protopunk, is amazing since her shielding and passive allows for its effect to be active at all times, but otherwise Swing Jazz is also fantastic too. Caesar specifically has a quick chain attack unlike characters like Sokaku or Seth, which does make Swing Jazz even more appealing to this character, but in truth, Caesar's set will definitely be determined by her partners or what kind of team she's paired with. If another ally has a tough time making use of Swing Jazz, Caesar equipping the set could resolve issues in trying to activate all 4-piece set effects on a team. In terms of actual performance, however, the different disk drive sets do not differ heavily enough from each other, and therefore it's fine to pick whichever has better stats between Freedom Blues, Protopunk, and Swing Jazz. For her 2 set options, Shockstar, Swing Jazz, and Proto are all fine given that each 2-piece effect synergizes decently with her kit, but as always, it is the same as her 4-piece set effect, where better disk drives will matter more than which set they are on. As a recommendation though, I would definitely suggest running 4-piece Swing Jazz with 2-piece Shockstar if you aren't interested in farming Protopunk, and otherwise 4-piece Protopunk alongside 2-piece Shockstar will work great considering how much stunning Caesar performs. Caesar's build depends on the team composition, but impact remains crucial. In an anomaly-based team like with Jane, Caesar should prioritize an anomaly proficiency 4th slot, physical 5th slot, and impact 6th slot disk drive, with its subset in this build focus on attack percent and anomaly percent. For hypercarry teams like JUN or Soldier, using crit rate on 4th slot, physical on 5th slot, and impact on 6th slot once again, with a focus of attack percent, crit rate, and crit damage to enhance your support damage is definitely going to be the play. Before I talk about the most important topic of all, I have a few sample team compositions here that I found to work well with Caesar. The first and most powerful team I tried was Jane, Seth, Caesar, and this was primarily because of how well it complemented Jane Doe. Formerly, this team had Lucy in place of Caesar, and this team forfeited some stun potential and utility in exchange for an attack increase. But with Caesar, Seth, and Jane all together now, she still has the attack increase, but now also has a powerful anti-interrupt barrier and debuff to increase Jane's overall damage. This team excels at the hypercarry Jane playstyle, and it looks to top the charts both in damage, enjoyment of play, and style. The next team I found to do well with Caesar is Soldier 11, Caesar Lucy, and this one is all about ultimates and burning. Soldier 11 appreciates the stun value and attack buff from Caesar alongside Lucy, but this plays similar to a traditional stunner plus buffer composition anyway. Soldier 11 is still able to apply a significant amount of anomaly with her burn though, and this is complemented perfectly by Lucy's massive anomaly generation too. Overall, this plays similar to most crit stunner buffer teams, but it is nice to see Soldier 11 have a strong team composition too. The final team I found to work amazingly with Caesar is JUN, Caesar, Nicole. This might seem like an odd pairing since most players will find Qingyi or Ambi to work in Caesar's place, but the value that Caesar provides to JUN is actually very noticeable. The anti-interrupt that her barrier gives, for instance, allows JUN to tank even more hits when attempting to shoot more of her shotgun shells. And this is actually very helpful since otherwise JUN can only attack when the boss is stunned. To be clear, the main value that Caesar has in general is the attack increase anyways, but the ability to provide decent stun already and also provide a 1000 attack increase is incredible. Side note, it is possible to make adjustments to this team and swap out someone like Nicole for Caesar as well, but the defense shred, ether damage, and insane corruption application from Nicole is usually too good to pass up for JUN. Additionally, if you're able to pair someone like Caesar alongside JUN, this does free up Qingyi and Ambi for other teams in your Shiyu defense lineup, but keep in mind that Qingyi was also skipped by a lot of players since they were saving for Jane, and if this is the case, you only have one stunner in the form of Ambi if you're completely free to play. Future Canna here to talk and update you guys about some of the comments and questions I've received regarding Caesar's teams. Yes, she can be used as a semi-stun buffer replacement in teams that don't have their best in slot stunner, like with Juyuan, Ellen, Korin, or even Nekomata, but keep in mind that both Lycone and Qingyi in some cases will outperform way harder for these characters if you're primarily focused on damage output. That being said, some stunners will likely feel worse or play worse than Caesar since she is so much more straightforward and easy to use. Additionally, there have been questions about Sukaku's value or substitution since she's similar to Caesar, but that is not necessarily the case. Sukaku provides the team with ice damage and defense shred depending on your mindscape level, which does prevent different yet highly impactful value to your team. However, it is true that Sukaku will take longer to apply most of these effects as opposed to Caesar, who can simply use a charged basic attack and use an EX special to apply her debuffs and gain her shield. Overall, she works in plenty of situations and teams since she is so versatile, but mentioning every single possibility would simply take forever. Now, in terms of if she's worth it, she is by far the most different of the supportive cast since she does make the game way easier to play, and this is on top of having an amazing attack increase and debuff. However, as with Jane, Qingyi, and even Juyuan, none of these characters are must pulls since they don't offer more than, well, damage. Caesar does offer way more in terms of utility since her barrier and attack increase make her versatile, but this value is more dependent on the team she's surrounded by and the fight that she's in. Caesar, for instance, will definitely excel in the final disputed node since Razor swings 1000 times in a row and Caesar can mitigate this, but if the enemy isn't attacking nearly as much, you could reason that the attack increase and debuff potential from other supports will essentially match Caesar's value. Her W engine is also fantastic and stands out among all defense options currently released, but she is a support that is mostly focused on dazing and buffing the team, so it's debatable whether a limited W engine for a supportive character is worth it. The damage increases it provides does make things easier for Caesar's teams though, but again, you could always argue that teams currently overkill the content in ZenlessZoneZero anyway, so it's up to you. Overall, I do still believe she's one of the best supportive agents to have, and the ability to turn off my brain when her shield is on is very comforting, and so with this in mind, I will still be pulling for her since I would love to enjoy player Razor's fight without breaking my hands, but of course guys, that's just me. Anyways guys, that's going to be it for this video. This was my first impressions with Caesar after clearing most of the content and testing her a decent amount. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to check out the rest of my socials, like, comment, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe. And once again guys, thank you again for watching. I will see you guys all next time. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.